They grow up so fast, renting this from Rentlow means we won't miss a thing.
Number 41, number 62, and lucky last is number...
Around the 1980s, Michael Crawford made the Broadway spotlight performing as the Phantom in Andrew Lloyd Webber's Phantom of the Opera. He gained major recognition from American audiences for his hypnotic voice and powerful movements. Starting his career in the early 1960s, he made his way onto British television and cinema. Only when he hit Hollywood as an actor, dancer and singer did he break through. Well, not quite. Although he got to be a part of a big-name crew for Hello Dolly, a film directed by actor and dance choreographer Gene Kelly, with talent such as Barbra Streisand and Walter Matthau, the musical bombed heavily. It didn't stop him from tackling other projects like A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum, a complete comedy cast including Buster Keaton, silent film stuntman. With no crazy breakthrough, one opportunity came into the picture after returning to the BBC in the 1970s. In Some Mothers Do Have 'Em, Michael Crawford took the role of Frank Spencer, a hilariously accident-prone ultimate klutz and eternal underdog, portrayed as a real human being. Frank does his best getting through life, trying to find a decent job, being in a relationship with Betty, helping out neighbours, and later in the series having a kid. Being accident-prone, he causes trouble with his immediate instincts, resulting in almost everyone disliking him. For the audience, though, it results in unbelievable entertainment. The chemistry between Crawford and Michelle Dottris, who performs as Betty, conjures up the sweet and heartfelt to the anxiety-inducing and problematic scenarios that appear. Scenarios as simple as a job interview, a driving lesson.
Oh, this is a nice wide road, isn't it?
Yes, isn't it?
There's an aeroplane! I want to get out!
Even a hotel visit turns into a colossal nightmare.
Back!
Yeah. Oh, Frank! No, it's beginning to wobble!
No, go round the back!
The important element to accomplishing these situations is the execution of stunt work, prop and set management, all whilst Crawford himself hurdled and hung on to danger. For an authentic experience, having the main character go through these ongoing fiascos would leave audiences bewildered to his daring courage. It was a risk for sure, but it led to the show becoming more immersive. It'd keep audiences guessing what would come next. Some Mothers was an outrageous farce, built around the kind of stunts and situations one used to see in the old silent films. We attempted to create a modern-day silent film character with inspirations such as Harold Lloyd, Buster Keaton, and Laurel and Hardy. The achievements that Michael Crawford and the stunt team worked towards would level from different extremities. Probably one of the more famous stunts pulled off is where Frank goes roller skating and is whipped out of the arena. He ends up skating around the town, going downstairs, holding onto a bus, ducking under trucks, and crashing into a baby shop. There'd be driving scenes such as a big motorcycle ride in Season 3, where the bike won't stop and leads to many dangerous close calls. Season 2 included multiple sequences of driving lessons from its Christmas special, hanging on top of a moving car and landing onto a horse, and later on speeding off into the water. And the final episode left Spencer high up in the air. With Frank's lanky figure, it resulted in him becoming an aerobic ragdoll. He would disappear in an instant as he was launched out of the room or off the screen. It takes a fair amount of willpower to do flips and fast movement, but to do it all seamlessly took practice and courage from Crawford's part. But it wasn't his first rodeo in stunts. The assistance and strength of Derek Ware, Stuart Fell, Mark Boyle and Val Musetti shouldn't be ignored, as they took part in a fair amount of the additional stunts, as well as coordinating Crawford on how to take each individual moment. In most episodes, Crawford would hang on to dear life in multiple ways, hanging from the top of a ladder, dragged along by a moving train, but most notably, these three memorable stunts, some being the most dangerous in the series. For the first Christmas special, the finale has Spencer dressed as an angel for a play. Being attached to a harness, the script required that he be pulled up by one of the crew to dangle higher over the audience. It's a tremendous visual, especially when Frank is hoisted up high into the air. On the day of filming, the technician practically cut him in half when he hoisted Crawford up onto the wire. Then he abruptly let the wire go and dropped him, but recovered just in time to catch him before hitting the floor. There was enough wind left in Crawford to bleat an ad-lib. Well, that's ruined my Christmas. In season 1, there's an episode where Frank is applying for various jobs and ends up as a window cleaner. Basically, he becomes scared of heights and miraculously ends up hanging on the legs of the other cleaner. This stunt was done without a proper rehearsal. Crawford and Derek Ware stood in a window cleaner cradle upon a high building. The script called for Crawford to fall over the edge of the cradle and hang on the outside, pulling Ware with him so that they ended up hanging 20 stories above the street. A rope with a wire inside had been attached, allowing for a fall of about 5 feet below the cradle. Then Derek, who was wired independently of Crawford, would land on his shoulders when he fell. We were completely stuck. It couldn't go up or down, and so we hung, helpless, on the outside of the cradle, 200 feet above London's North Circular Road. I was terrified that the slightest movement would send us plunging to our depths. We were both pouring sweat. Eventually, the crew managed to lower someone down in an attempt to pull them back into the cradle, but the rescue was partially successful. The stuntmen were brought up off Crawford's shoulders, but now, with the rescuing party, there were too many people in the cradle, so we had to continue to hang on the side of the building for another 20 minutes. In season 2, Frank gets a new job and is offered a work vehicle. Him and Betty decide to go for a picnic near a cliffside. Trying to make their way up, Frank unsurprisingly leads to them hanging on the edge of the cliff. This story originated from one of the editors experiencing this situation. An amateur rugby player had been driving along the cliff road till they discovered the editor stranded on the edge of the cliff. He'd been having a picnic in his car, and during the rainstorm the back wheels of the vehicle had slipped over the side. Miraculously, his front wheels maintained a tentative hold, making for a perfect Frank Spencer story. For the stunt gag, Crawford had to get on top of the roof of the car, then slide headfirst into a somersault over the boot and wind up hanging onto the bumper, then with one hand open the boot, pulling bags of manure out, which of course covered him as they fell down into the sea below. This stunt was given high-end coordination, lots of rope, and the director yelling from below for what Crawford needed to do. It was a stressful stunt to pull off, but ended up being a very iconic moment in the series. Without the stunts, Some Others Do Have 'Em would have been a witty show that had some interesting topics of the everyday person in the 1970s. But with Michael Crawford's dedication to every over-the-top stunt, it made for a more memorable experience. The use of practical stunts and effects resulted in the show being a hit on British television. And whilst Crawford could now be remembered more for his singing career and dramatic theatre performance of The Phantom, which is probably the best thing in his eyes, the craft of evolving Frank Spencer is also a great achievement. I did some fairly wild stunts in Some Others, but whether I'm roller skating under a lorry, being dragged by a train, or bouncing down a flight of stairs inside a wardrobe, success is all in the planning, the control, and knowing how to hang on like grim death. There was at least one man who ran around England who thought he really was Frank Spencer. I met him. He kept rattling with an awful voice, "Do you ever need a stand-in?" No. I do my own stunts.